Hello and welcome to the Natural State Update. I'm Christina Munoz. We start this episode with news from Governor Asa Hutchinson that there is a possibility for a special session which could happen as soon as July. The main topic to be discussed will be how to spend the state surplus. Some ideas include increased school safety efforts, also considering some grant funding for that, as well as giving additional tax relief to Arkansans, mainly to help with things like higher fuel prices. Speaking of, right now, the average for a gallon of gas in Arkansas is $4.47. Last year at this time, it was $2.76. And now that it's summer, our Central Arkansas Library System is offering Saturdays at the Galleries, a series of artist demonstrations at the Cowles Galleries and Bookstore at Library Square, which is in the River Market. The events are free and open to the public from 11 to 2. On to our stories for the week. If you live in Arkansas or if you're on social media, there's a good chance you know who Tommy Norman is. The super popular North Little Rock police officer has millions of followers and is now using his platforms to raise awareness about some very important and very personal issues.
Tommy Norman comes from a big family and is the youngest, along with his twin sister.
My mom taught me at a really young age, all of us, just to be nice to people.
Tommy took that teaching with him throughout his upbringing and into his career as a North Little Rock police officer, which started in 1998.
It's not always been the badge for me, it's been my heart.
His always be nice mantra helped him become known in his community and on social media. And after some national recognition in 2015, his following began to grow exponentially.
If you would have told me back in 1998 as a rookie police officer that 20 years later that I would have millions of people across the world and outside of the United States watching what I do every day, I would have thought you were crazy. I'd be like, no, that's not going to happen. And so I do feel now it's really humbled me. I know God has placed me on this platform to be one of the faces. I'm not the face, but I'm one of the faces of how policing should be done.
As a family man of faith, Tommy was so grateful that he had reunited with his adult daughter Alyssa about a year ago after she had fallen into a life of drug addiction. Alyssa was living at the Harbor Home in Conway, a faith-based home for those recovering from addiction. About a week before Thanksgiving last year, Tommy got a phone call that every parent dreads.
When I saw the Harbor Home, I froze. I didn't want to initially swipe to answer, but I knew I had to. I was really, really scared. So I answered the phone. Laura Lease is the woman that kind of heads the place out there, kind of like the house mom, so to speak. And she said, Tommy, I've got some bad news. Alyssa overdosed.
Tommy says he went into a complete state of shock.
I dropped my phone. And I laid my head on the steering wheel and I screamed.
The next few days were a blur as Tommy said goodbye to his 26-year-old daughter. He says his faith and his community are what carried him through.
The support from people and just prayers, it's just amazing. I mean, people from all over.
One example came from Alyssa's favorite shake joint, the Purple Cow.
She loved Purple Cow shakes. One of the places we visited to celebrate her birthday, which was July 24th, we went to Purple Cow and we had a purple shake.
Which is why Purple Cow delivered purple shakes for the family on the day of Alyssa's celebration of life.
We're here celebrating Alyssa's life. Everybody has a Purple Cow shake.
We wanted to do that because, he had expressed how important it was to Alyssa, and no one wants to ever imagine losing their child, and you have to have empathy for someone going through that. And if just something as simple as a purple shake can kind of give you that sense of, togetherness and having that time with that person, it's such a simple thing for us to do.
Tommy then encouraged others to go to Purple Cow and have a purple shake in honor of Alyssa. Again, the explosion of support was overwhelming.
We gave so many I'm paying it forward shakes out, and then we actually had to stop that for a minute and coordinate with Officer Norman, like, would you be okay if we gave you some shake coins to pass out? And so now we have shake coins to give to him to pass out at his leisure, instead of us trying to keep up with it, because we didn't want to miss one, you know. And we had so many, just an outpouring just in Little Rock, and we had people calling from other states, you know, 6-8 states away, and they're just buying shakes over the phone to pay it forward for Alyssa. And it was just a beautiful thing. It was very nice to be a part of that.
The community continued to pour out their support and tributes and dedications to Alyssa. And then just 4 months later, Tommy's figurative broken heart turned into a literal broken heart.
I laid down on a Saturday night and laid in bed, and I felt some pain here and a little bit of pain here, and I thought it was indigestion. So I ignored that pain and I went to sleep.
By Sunday night, the pain was unbearable, and his wife took him to the emergency room.
I'd suffered a massive heart attack. They call it the widowmaker.
While Tommy now spends more time focused on his own health, he believes with all his heart his daughter is the reason he's still here today.
Alyssa saved me that night. Alyssa made sure that Rosalind got me to the hospital in time, and I could just hear Alyssa telling me, "Daddy, it's not time yet. It's not time." She knows the passion I have for this community in North Little Rock and beyond, and she knows at the age of 49 years old, I've got a lot more work to do.
So while he will continue to connect with the community and use his God-given platform to raise awareness for drug addiction as well as heart disease, he will also continue to do what his mom told him to do all those years ago in the name of his daughter.
Tomorrow's not promised, and what you say to people, you know, people that are feuding and people that have these big arguments, you know, and then the next thing you know, the person you were arguing with or the person that you said something mean to, they go out and they're killed, whether it's a car wreck or whatever, however God takes them. We've got to learn to be nicer to people. This world is it's a cruel world. And I remember when Alyssa passed away, one of the first things I thought was, why is this? I'm out every day trying to spread kindness, but the cruel world, it took my daughter. And I'm telling you, people may think, okay, being nice to one person is not going to change the world. It is. You can change the world, because guess what? When you leave here today, I'm going to tell you, bye, Christina, I love you, great to see you. That's probably going to make you feel better, right, as you drive away from here, right? It's contagious. Kindness is contagious. And I know Alyssa was a big advocate of that.
And Officer Norman has been focusing on getting healthy and has actually lost 25 pounds since his heart attack. He went back to work this week and says he's doing good, except for the fact that his uniform no longer fits him. And if you want to get a purple shake in honor of Alyssa, you can find a Purple Cow in North Little Rock, one in Hot Springs, 2 in Little Rock, and 1 in Conway. We now want to turn our attention to a topic that has been all over the news lately: school shootings, the possible causes and prevention strategies. This is actually a story that we've already shared here on the Natural State Update, but we think it is so important and so timely, we're going to share it again. Many believe Arkansas's first school shooting was the horrific encounter in Jonesboro, but the first documented case was actually 17 years earlier. Jason Pederson has the story.
Just 3 months before the shooting at Westside Middle School, there was a school shooting here in Stamps, Arkansas, where a 14-year-old shot 2 of his classmates. They both survived. But 17 years before that, there was another school shooting here in Stamps, and in that case, the victim did not survive. Evan Hampton is believed to be Arkansas's first school shooter. David Hampton is Evan Hampton's younger brother.
He was always, I guess the only word that I could say, different than me or my older brother. I was the youngest, he was the middle, and then my oldest brother was 6 years older than me. He was always a bit slow, different.
Hampton says that his brother was held back a year in school due to his learning difficulties. As a 16-year-old freshman, he was being bullied by a 19-year-old senior.
So they pulled both of the boys in and set them down and said, hey, if this continues, we're going to kick both of you out of school.
But nothing changed. The bullying continued until January 7th, 1980.
I was sitting in study hall and I heard a noise that I didn't really think that much about. It sounded like you had a big science book and dropped it on a floor, and it went wow. And I heard that 3 times. And then I heard people screaming, and then some kids ran into the study hall and said that Evan had shot a kid.
The next day's Arkansas Democrat told the story in a front-page article. Student at Stamps shot, youth held. Evan Hampton was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was released after serving 4 years. That's when David says signs of his brother's mental illness became obvious. He began experiencing delusions.
I thought he was on drugs. I mean, it was just bizarre activity, and we thought maybe he was on drugs or something, and it just continued to get worse and worse.
Evan was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. David believes that Evan's bullying would not have resulted in a school shooting and another student's death without mental illness. Schools here in Lafayette County and across the state have anti-bullying policies, but David Hampton says both bullying and the mental health of teenagers needs more attention.
I've dealt with mental health from my jobs that I've had over the years, and through the seeing those people with mental illness, if they got the right help, then they would be possibly this wouldn't happen, and their lives would be better.
Despite his notoriety, Evan Hampton never left Stamps. He was found dead in his driveway south of town in the fall of 2020. The mobile home where Hampton lived now looks like a tornado hit it, and it wasn't in much better shape at the time of his death. His cause of death remains unknown. Evan Hampton was 56 years old and refused to take medication for the final 10 years of his life. Now that his suffering is over, David says he's willing to talk openly about what can be learned from Evan's life. As the brother of Arkansas's first school shooter, David is willing to speak to schools and law enforcement agencies to help raise awareness about bullying and mental illness.
I'm not doing this in order to promote that or to do it, but I would be willing to do that. I have talked to individual teachers or principals before about this, but it'd just be a one-on-one situation about the importance of monitoring bullying and taking steps to prevent it. And he needed to be placed somewhere or in a situation where he was made to take the medication, and you cannot force somebody who is not suicidal or homicidal to do that.
For the Natural State Update, I'm Jason Pederson.
Thank you, Jason. And if you'd like to contact David Hampton about speaking at your school or law enforcement group about bullying and mental health, just send us an email at info@naturalstateupdate.com. And just because it's summer doesn't mean there aren't a lot of entertainment options for you. For more on that, we go to Amanda Horton.
Hi, I'm Amanda Horton, Director of Reynolds Performance Hall, bringing you your entertainment options for the month of June. The Arkansas Shakespeare Theater Company is the state's only professional Shakespeare company, and they make their home right here on the University of Central Arkansas campus. They return this month with one of Shakespeare's most beloved works, Much Ado About Nothing. This show will be traveling to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville and will be performed at the Global Campus Theater on June 16th through the 18th. The company will then return to the UCA campus, where they will perform in the Bridges Larson Theater in Snow Fine Arts June 22nd through July 2nd. The Studio Theater in Little Rock presents Gypsy this month, opening on June 17th. This show is based off of the life and times of famed burlesque queen Gypsy Rose Lee. Audiences are in for a show-stopping treat. Another option to see a powerful leading lady featured is at the Weekend Theater. They will present Always Patsy Cline, the touching two-person musical and true story of country music legend Patsy Cline and her friendship with Texas housewife Louise Seeker. And just a short drive in Russellville at the Center for the Arts, the Center Stage Productions will present Into the Woods June 23rd through the 26th. We also have some spectacular concerts this month. The Hall will have Snarky Puppy on June 8th. If you aren't familiar with them, they are a 3-time Grammy Award-winning fusion band. They showcase a little bit of jazz, rock, world music, and funk. Also at the Hall, as a part of the Juneteenth celebration, rhythm and blues powerhouse singer-songwriter Leela James will be performing on June 18th. The First Security Amphitheater will host the My People Tour with contemporary Christian artists Crowder, We the Kingdom, and Wilson and Moore on June 23rd. They will then present classic Southern rockers ZZ Top on June 26th. Summer is a time for road trips, and Mountain View is a short drive that offers big fun. On June 17th and 18th, the Ozark Folk Center State Park will present Country Blues and Barbecue. This festival includes performances by Grammy winners Alvin Youngblood Hart, Jimbo Mathis, Nicholas Edwards Williams, and more. You can also experience local arts on the blacksmith stage and visit the craft village with over 20 artisan shops. For the Natural State Update, I'm Amanda Horton.
Thank you, Amanda. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that inflation has been a topic of concern for many. But is it as bad as it seems? For that answer, we go to Scott Inman.
Inflation continues to drive economic worries and economic headlines. Consumers have handled it so far, but are we at the tipping point? We explore the data in this week's Fastest 4 Minutes in Finance. Hello again, I'm Scott Inman. Well, a quick check of the Fastest 4 archives shows that over the past year, we've focused at least partially on inflation in half of our weekly videos. That's 26 times. So it caught our attention this week that the White House has launched a month-long effort this June to show that inflation has become President Biden's top concern. The new campaign is no doubt in response to polling that shows Americans are souring on their evaluation of the economy. A Gallup poll released this week found that just 14% of U.S. adults rate economic conditions as excellent or even good. A whopping 46% called them poor. A White House official told CNN, quote, "For the month of June, we are really just communicating how in touch we are with what Americans are dealing with and how it's our number one economic priority." Well, there is no doubt that higher than normal inflation has persisted longer than most predicted. And there's new data that shows if it continues much longer, it could begin to wreck the economy. But we're not there yet. Consumer spending drives the economy, and so far, consumers are still spending, even though prices are soaring. Real consumer spending rose 0.7% in April. That's the fourth consecutive monthly increase in real spending. So where are they getting it? Well, data shows they have been sitting on savings stockpiles and are now unloading it. The savings rate in April fell to 4.4%. That's the lowest rate since 2008. But it's important to have perspective on this. The savings rate was significantly above historical norms during the pandemic. Consumers stored up parts of their income for 2 years and are now using it to offset the increase in prices. They're also using credit cards more. Revolving consumer credit reached near-term lows in January of 2021. At the end of last year, the ratio of total household debt payments to disposable income was 9.3%. Now compare that to 2007 when it was 13.2%, an all-time high. So the takeaway here is consumers are better positioned to use credit cards to weather the inflationary storm than they were in past years. Of course, that's only a temporary solution. If inflation doesn't moderate soon, consumer spending may decrease significantly, and that could cool off economic growth. There are signs, though, of the inflation rates slowing. A chart from LPL Research shows the rate of growth in the core personal consumption expenditure deflator declined in April to 4.9% year over year. It was 5.2% in March. In fact, all of the inflation measures on this chart dropped last month. As we enter June, we will soon get May inflation numbers, and that will hopefully begin to create a trend of inflation rates going down. Bottom line, Americans have weathered inflation well so far, but they can't do it forever without impacting economic growth. Only time will tell which direction we're heading. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Scott. That does it for us for this episode. With all the bad going on in our world, we always want to leave you with some encouraging words. So this week, I'm going to share a verse from a church camp I went to recently. It comes from 1 Thessalonians. "Rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Thank you for watching. I'm Christina Munoz for the Natural State Update.